So we are taking a big risk with this video. I think you'll like it, so don't go away. Hello, my name's Bill and this is Six Rounds Studio. Today we're going to do something a little bit different. I want to tell you a quick story. My dad started his little gun shop, Rhodey's Gun Shop, back in 1962. And he started it in the basement of my parents' house. Now, I was just a young child at the time, and the customers would be going up and down our cellar stairs down into my dad's little gun shop. And of course, we would hear all the goings on of all the transactions that were happening in the cellar. Anyway, the point I'm making here is that during those years that the shop ran, from 62 until my dad passed here a year and a half ago when he was 95 years old, that shop, they had a great contingent of gun owners, gun enthusiasts, gun people who would come into the shop. They would take a stool and they would talk for hours. My point in this is that this was a gathering place of gun people, and this went on for over 50 years. They had gun collectors, gun writers, gun engineers. They all showed up. They all talked. Rhodey's has always been a gathering place of real gun folks, real gun people, people whose interests were strictly in the firearms design and development and the gun world in general. Now, my dad's passed, my uncle's passed, but it hasn't changed much. Today, there's a whole new younger group of folks that are showing up. I had the opportunity recently to have some of my former colleagues at Ruger show up. It was the same thing. These two guys sat down on the stools and we started talking guns, gun design, and before you know it, almost 2 hours has gone by. So I asked them if I could put a camera on the wall. So I didn't spend a lot of time. This sort of happened all just off the cuff. So I set the camera up. It wasn't very well framed, but the conversation was pretty good and pretty dynamic. One of the guys was my buddy Rick. Now, Rick was on several of the design and development teams for several of the guns that Ruger put out. As well, Rick was a master machinist. The other guy in the conversation still works for Ruger. Mike and I have known each other for 25 years as well. Mike is another master machinist, designer, gun guy. Again, we sat down, we had a great conversation. So with their permission, I did an edit, took out all the discussions we had about Ruger and focused on guns, gun designs. I'm going to present that to you guys, and if you enjoy this, then we might do more of it. It's all on whether you think this content is something you'd like to see more of. Let's get started.
Yeah, those old guns are just fucking amazing. And the more of the old guns I take a look at inside, it's like, son of a bitch, you know, having been in the design part of the whole thing, I think these things were really well thought out. Were they really well thought out for mass production? Maybe not, but that really wasn't the worry back then.
No, and that's why I think the Marlins, were $10, $15 more, which was huge money back then than the other guns, because it must have really taken some craftsmanship, time-wise, to make those guns with what they had for production methods. Where today you put it in CNC, things would be done.
It's all done,
time,
yeah, all done.
But there's a lot of stuff in those older guns you don't know that were still done by hand. They were hand shaving things, which you couldn't mill in a CNC, some of the things that they did. It's just amazing.
I did ask this question today. If you were going to put sights on a gun and had to drill and tap it, how would you line it up? What? Well, how would you line it up to know that you have the holes straight? I said, do you have just the receiver? Are you putting it on the barrel? Do you have a complete gun? Yeah, which one? I said, this is what I do. If it's a bolt action gun or whatever, I have 4-inch pins. I put, say it's a 22, they're 219. One pin in one end, one pin in the other. I true those pins up. No matter what I do, even if it looks a little goofy on the receiver, it is straight to that barrel. I said, what you really should do is if you're doing it for yourself or somebody wants to be very accurate, is get them to let you put both sights on the barrel. You can put them on any gun and they shoot the same.
Yeah.
And people always, I used to hear people, I kind of chuckle, oh, I had my barrel off and I was so worried I put it back on. That gun still shot. Well, you didn't change it. The sights were still on the barrel.
That's why the sights on the barrel are a good thing.
You know? And I kind of chuckle. I said, when I used to be able to go with Tilden and Kevin and shoot at different competitions and stuff, I said, one of the first things Kevin had me do on my gun is put a cantilever scope on it.
Yeah.
I said, I can take that thing off and half throw it across the room other than knocking the scope out.
Yeah.
You put it back on, it still shoots perfect. It
Yeah.
doesn't matter. And it took a second to click, but I finally got what he was having me do.
Yeah.
I said, anytime you can mount it to a barrel, you mount everything to that barrel.
You know, 150 years ago, the stuff that they would put out with the machines that they had available.
Yeah.
And
They didn't have any fancy gauging equipment, or they had a fucking snap
You look
gauge.
at some of the old European guns, and obviously I only get to see pictures in a book, but the inlaid work, the artistic work on those things, it's just like, oh my God, how many hours did that take?
Yeah.
And they're just, I mean, they're not guns, they're pieces of art.
Yeah.
Yeah. I tell guys, when I used to travel around with Dietrich, and especially, you know, we'd go to the big Bleinfeld show and we were in the fine gun room, I got to handle guns that you wouldn't even fucking believe. I mean, these things were made for kings and stuff, and the workmanship on those just blew you away. You're like, what the hell? But, you know, they had the market, and that market's still there. There's, you have a couple of gun makers that target that. Hofer over in Germany, well, he's Austria, actually. His gun's up $250,000 or more, and he can't, you know, he's all handmade. He's got a shop, he's got a company.
What were the two you just had this summer?
oh yeah, the Purdy's,
Yeah,
Purdy's.
Yeah.
Yeah, Purdy's. Yeah.
Yeah. I got to see all that shit and handle it, and it's like, boy, this is a whole nother level of the stuff I used to see. Then
Well-
you start finding really old guns.
When you get $1 billion in the bank,
Yeah, who cares?
what's a quarter of a,
So
200 grand on a shotgun?
Only a little money. That's a nice gun right there.
So here we got a probably 1915 era, 20 era Remington.
That's a 10 gauge.
That's a 10 gauge, but look at the
Look at the workmanship.
Look at the workmanship in that. Look at the quality. I mean, look at the wood. Look at the lines and how the lines flow so consciously into the metal itself. I mean, it's amazing stuff.
But look at that safety button.
Yeah, amazing stuff.
And we're talking an American gun that was made turn of the century. Well,
Yeah, click.
clunk.
I love about these
Clip.
old
Yeah.
guns.
Yeah. I mean, look at the fit of the metal into the wood. Look at the fine line checkering.
That's that. Here's a little information for you, Bill. That type of forend and latch is an Anson and Dealey. It's British, and we actually had a Dealey style on the Ruger.
Yeah, isn't that just beautiful?
I'd like to take that duck hunt.
It's a different aesthetic today. It's a different way of thinking. It's a different reason for building firearms today.
You make guns today for money.
You know,
You don't make them for
You know.
history.
Yeah.
It's one thing I learned when I was in Germany with Dietrich, is we had dinner with Dieter Anschutz. And I was just amazed the whole time. You know, he's so into his guns. He didn't care if he was rich, but he didn't care that he was rich. He wasn't in it for the money. He was in it for the pride of his family name, the whole 9 yards. And they still make the best 22s around. But you know and all of the German executives I talked to, while I was over there, were all the same thing. They were so proud of their product, the company name, and we work for this guy, and it was just amazing.
I'm not going to say our over and under by any means was a great gun, but I was pretty proud of what we used
It was
to
a
make.
damn good gun.
Because especially when I get to be a lead and supervisor, and you know, once again, there's some flaws here and there, but we put out for the money a pretty damn good
gun.
and it was a good value. You know, and I laugh. You know, when I shoot trap or something with it, go to one of the state championships, and guys say, "Yo, you'd be pretty good. You ever got a real gun?" And I walk off. You know, my last competition was Maine, and I won handicap for out of state, and I actually scored higher than the Maine guys. Three of us tied, and I shot a perfect score in a shoot off to win the championship. And I remember going off the line. There's a couple of mass guys there that I recognized from different shoots, and you know, I go up to rack, pick up my little 28-inch Ruger, and there's the 34-inch. One of them had a Krieghoff, and then the other one was another one, but they were both 34, so the gun looked funny coming off the rack against them. And then they'd really get me going, because Jordan was one of them. You know, you should get a real gun, not that Ruger. And he says, "Really, Jordan?" I said, you know, because you say how much better his gun was. I said, "I don't do anything to my gun but clean it." And I said, "You sent yours back every year to be gone through?" "Well, yeah, they demand it." "And how much do they charge you?" "Oh, it's not that much. It's a few $100 unless they have to change parts." If I rebuilt my Ruger every year, how long would it last? You know?
Yeah, that's what I used to pick on Tilden, you know, because he was a big British gun guy. Yeah, they're beautiful. The handling characteristics are great, but you know, a lot of those older guns are downright dangerous because the barrel thickness in the center is like 16 thousandths. It's supposed to be 20, anything under 20 they consider risky.
If you guys enjoyed that, if you think it's something you'd like to see more of, if you like the channel, please give it a thumbs up, subscribe if you haven't already, ring that bell so you get notified the next time I post a video. I'll see you in the next video.